Welcome to episode 133 of the NERO Show. In today's episode,
I've ridden some of the most expensive wheels in the world, the Scope Artech 6.8s. I chat you through how they ride.
Van der Poel's flying around in private jets, REMCO's SOOKY, the tour is underway. We have a chat through some of the things going on.
And then, of course, we've got dog or fast bike and some chat about the new ENVE Pro wheels just released at the tour. All right, let's get into it.
All right, Jesse, what's going on? This is a little bit early.
Early in the week.
Early in the week.
Yeah, I reckon the tour's on. There's some stuff to chat about, so I reckon try and squeeze in 2 episodes this week. What do you think?
I think this could be the formula for a couple of weeks. I'm not going to lay our flag too much down, but potentially we'll see. There's just a lot going on, and both of us wanted to sort of cover it potentially in 2 different episodes. But before we start, Jesse, as you mentioned, the tour is on, and I want to do a little shout, a little push to get the NERO Show up to 70K on YouTube, because I do know there is a large proportion of the listeners and viewers who aren't actually subscribed. Do us a favor. We'd love to hit 70K by the end of the month. I can see you laughing over there, Jesse.
We did move the goalpost after 100K by Christmas. It's now 70K by August the following year. So a bit of an adjustment on that one.
Yeah. I think potentially a little bit of reality is checked in there. So yeah, there's give us, if you're on a podcast player, you're dead to me, but also jump over to YouTube and hit subscribe and move the needle for us.
But the tour, from a YouTube point of view and any social media, if you're into cycling, it just becomes pretty overwhelming. So we are going to do a chat around some of the stuff. Obviously, the equipment, I'm really keen to pick your brain on, but we're not just going to make this just shouting Tour de France controversies at you to get clicks, because it's a bit overwhelming. So we'll cover that, and then we'll also just have some other chat around things that we've seen that have nothing to do with the Tour de France, as hopefully a bit of a palate cleanser from all the Tour de France controversies that are obviously going to come up.
All right, let's get into the meat of the day, Jesse. Last week you had a set of wheels. We had a wheel sitting behind you, and we discussed the idea of you riding them and giving us a little bit of a review. So I thought we might try and do that, because time's going to be a bit limited with these wheels, isn't it?
Well, so they're the Scope Artech 6.8s, which, for those that haven't been following, they are some of the most expensive wheels in the world. Tested fastest in the Cycling News wheel group test, and just well regarded as the frothiest, best wheels money can buy. Chris is going to be taking them back also to ride them. So this is not going to be a full review, 2,000, 5,000 kilometers, but I've already gotten a feel for them. So this is just basically my impressions of the wheel from the time I've ridden them, and take it or leave it. The longevity testing someone else is going to have to do.
Just quickly, 25mm rim internals. We're looking at 33 externals. They are a 66. They're a 65mm depth. Now, the weight on them, they're actually measuring up at 1,319 grams. Now, the other little bit about them that makes them kind of extra frothy is this 3D printed hub they're using called an Artech 3D Centerlock, and the spoke type is a carbon light aero spoke, 18 front, 24 rear.
What do you have to do before you ride a wheel? You got to install it. So GP5000, 30mm on the front, 32mm on the rear. They're going to, the 30mm, I haven't measured them, but I know what they're going to be. The front will measure 31.2, and the rear will measure 34. Put them on. No sealant in there. Silka floor pump. Front, douche.
Oh,
pumps up.
Straight up.
Beads in.
Yep.
Sealant in through the injector. Away I go. Put the rear tire on. Silka floor pump on. Pop. Inject the sealant in. Away you to go. The easiest tubeless install I've ever done. If you are on the fence, weird reason to buy a wheel. If you're a bit nervous about doing a tubeless setup, these are the easiest I've installed. Total no-brainer. And they weren't even new tires. I had ridden them before. So they already, sometimes when you're putting on a tubeless tire that's already been used and there's already a bit of sealant in the tire, it can be sticky and make it hard to it kind of sticks to itself and makes it harder to get a seal. and it still didn't have a problem. So straight out of the box, I'm happy because they're on and I'm riding them without any issue. Put them on the bike, roll out the door. As you would expect from a 1,300 gram wheel set, if you were blindfolded, you would have no idea these are 65 mil deep.
Okay.
That acceleration as I rode into Centennial Park for the first time and I turned off the bike parts and you get up to speed, it is just fun. That there's just a feeling of that super light wheel set where you wouldn't even know the depth is, it does that as you would expect. It's really impressive. Once you get rolling as well, it has that same feel that the CRWs have where when it's a carbon spoked wheel with a lower spoke count, I'm almost going to say comfort, but comfort comes more from the tires. So a better word is this almost floating feeling that you get, and these have it, and it feels really amazing. There's this sort of hum, this sort of float that you get, which you don't get on a 24 spoked steel wheel. When something to do with the lower spoke count and the light rim, they feel really amazing when you get them rolling. And then you slow down, you got to turn a corner to get up to speed. They feel amazing again. So in terms of that, incredible. They do crop crosswinds though. So because it's a 65 mil deep front that is very light, the first day I rode them, it was quite windy. And yeah, there was no magic sailing properties. There was no magic anti-turbulent air stalling effect. I mean, yeah, I was getting jerked at the front and then I would have to sort of grip in the drops and catch it. It was absolutely doing that as I have felt with many other wheels of that depth. The fact that they are 65 front is faster aerodynamically, but also makes that issue worse. Not specifically with these wheels, but I have always found with a 60 mil front, I'm pretty good. No issues. Mm-hmm. As soon as it goes to 65, because it happened on the CRW 65 front, it seems to just be this cutoff point where it's then an absolute basket case in strong crosswinds. But a 60 is fine. And the difference between like a 40, a 50, and a 60 is marginal. For me, whatever reason, when I go to 65, it becomes a basket case. So that's a bit of a toss-up that you might have to balance. Like these for the price, do not be under any illusion that these handle like a 50 mil deep. They still can catch a crosswind. And
not to blow too much smoke up your ass, but I do give you shit for your descending, but your riding in crosswinds is exceptional. So if you're saying there's a little bit of a feeling to it, then that I think adds a little bit of gravity to it potentially. Sure, a great South Coast tour leader at one point.
There it is.
There you go.
On a set of 30 fastboards.
Was it?
Yeah, back in the day.
Back in the day.
So sprinting, stiffness, they feel like carbon spoked wheels. There's no, they do have, as I mentioned, they do have that sort of slightly compliant hum thing. But when you step on the gas, yeah, they feel perfectly stiff. So there's no flex. I also do when it's in the bike, rock the rims and just like get a feel for how laterally stiff it is. And yeah, they feel really good. One negative, which isn't going to be on this wheel set because it was brand new, but the ones when I went to the wind tunnel last month and we were testing 2 sets of scopes, one of them wheel sets had the hub corrosion thing, which you'll see on forums if you look up the scopes. Because it's a 3D printed hub, there's like micro valleys all in the hub, and that's for some reason, whatever material they're using, it does create a surface corrosion which turns white, which, 2 things. Firstly, scope claim it's just a visual thing. It doesn't actually affect the integrity of the hub. And secondly, they have actually tried to improve that. So the surface finish on the hub on the new ones is slightly smoother than it was on prior generations. So they have made a change to the hub to fix that. But when you've got a nearly $5,000 USD set of wheels and the hubs start to get a bit of corrosion on them, it doesn't look good. And then you can go and just scrub and clean it off. But that's a negative. If you had a perfectly smooth sort of CNC machined hub, it wouldn't get that.
The only specific ride question I had for you was around just the speed, because they do really double down on these being the fastest wheels out there. They've got the friggin' scales on there.
Yeah.
You've got everything. Like, can you give me anything on that before I jump on them?
I did it. My testing is never going to get that granular anyway from a ride review testing. I did a 1 hour effort. It was at 42.0 kilometers an hour in what I thought was pretty reasonable conditions, which is basically in line with any hour effort I've done in the last 6 months.
Okay.
So there was I didn't get on and go, and I do the effort and I got an idea of what the speed's going to be because I've done that effort 1,000 times, and I turned to the lap summary page. I didn't go, oh shit, it's 42.6. That wasn't there. But to be fair, I wasn't expecting it to be there because we took these to the wind tunnel a month ago, and they were, within a couple of watts of many of the other wheel sets I have ridden. So while they are the fastest in the cycling news test and up there with the best of any other wheels, the speed difference between them and, like, if you took 5 of the best competition, you would not notice unless you were doing an hour-long dead flat time trial and picking between a few seconds at the finish line.
I understand. Okay.
Which I don't know if that's they weren't slow, but they weren't, you're not spending $5,000 and going, oh, I'm a kilometer an hour faster.
But I imagine the party trick of these wheels is the fact they're so light and therefore become more versatile when it comes to where you can ride them, and therefore that's the...
Yes, it's the fact that it's the fastest, one of the fastest wheels aerodynamically, but is also lighter than almost all the competition.
Yes.
And I'm going to get into the competition now. So let me just do sort of that's sort of the ride of it. Sorry if you want more detail, there's not really anything else to say. They're good carbon wheels. But I want to get into sort of the value chat, the money chat, and who they're for. So one of the big pros is they are unique. So when you get them out of the box, they've got the custom hub, they've got the fish scale pattern, and they've also ticked all the boxes of the features that you would even theoretically want when you're spending that kind of money. Hidden nipples, it's hooked. The low spoke count front, the fish scale pattern. Yeah, as I said, the 3D printed hub. I'm going to get onto value chat at the moment, but there are certainly products where you would say you're paying for the brand. I'd put like a Princeton Carbon Works in there, where they're expensive and you go, what am I actually paying for here? Whereas these wheels are expensive, but they're ticking every box that you would want for that money. So that's good if you spent the money. It's not daylight robbery. You're not getting taken for a ride. And at this level of wheel set, if we start to compare to some of the competition, I actually have some other wheels I think would perform similar to this at about a quarter of the price. But I just want to say, there will be people in the comments, and you're probably thinking now, oh, that's, you could get that from Elite. Elite wheels make a wheel like that, or Fast Sports make a wheel like that. I don't think that's fair, because at this level of, let's call it marginal gains, like right in the weeds, there is still a measurable difference there, and you can't just bucket every quote-unquote good quality Chinese wheel in this. So the criteria I have of a wheel set to be ballpark with this is the following. Depth, 50 mil or deeper. Weight under 1,350 grams. External rim width over 32 millimeters. And an internal rim width over 23 millimeters. If you're ticking all 4 of those, and I've got some examples, you're getting close. But trust me, the wheel sets you're thinking of probably don't tick all those 4 boxes. So Fast Sports don't make a wheel like that. Elite don't have a wheel like that. Windspace, the Lun wheels don't have a wheel like that. Yolio, Magine, 9 Velo Super Team, none of those brands have a wheel that tick all those boxes. So it's not fair to just say, oh, the Chinese brands can all do this. They can't. So I searched for wheels that met that criteria, and I'm going to go through them and we can compare the prices. The Syncross Capital SL60s, these Scope Artech 6As are $4,400 USD retail. Those Syncross Capital SLs, they're $4,600. They're in this criteria. Downsides of those are they are hookless, and they've got the sort of molded in carbon spokes with even less serviceability than these scopes. So more expensive, harder to service. Weight's about the same. Don't think they're as good. The Cadence 60s in the carbon spoke variant, it's an Australian brand made in China. They meet those specs I just described, and they're 1,600 USD, and they test just as fast. So that's the first wheel set I would say that if you're just going for price to performance, yeah, the scopes make no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Light bicycle Aria 65s.
Oh, yeah.
Spec'd with an extra light hub because their default in-house hub is too heavy. They're 1,710 grams, 23.5 internal, 33 external at the widest point, and they're claiming 1,270 grams with the extra light hub. Those are 1,700 USD. They look pretty good. And they're that 65 front and rear. The CRW 5060s, as I was worth mentioning, yeah, they meet all those specs, and they're 1,700 USD, but the front wheel is 50, so they're not going to be as fast. They're still a good wheel, but they're not going to be as fast. That's it. Now, I'm not saying others don't exist, but I spend a reasonable amount of time looking through those brands, and there's only in there, if we get rid of the ones that are more expensive, I could really only find 3 cheaper alternatives that get close. So the sea of other Chinese wheels, most of them don't get there. So I think that was kind of worth mentioning. And what I would say is, the scopes are still cooler. The scopes look way cooler than the Cadence.
Yep.
With the fish scale, they look more premium. But my kind of example would be, if you're an under 23 elite rider and you're on the start of nationals and you've trained the house down and this is your chance to go pro, and you look next to you and there's a guy on a set of scope Artech 6.8s, my question is, are there wheels you could put in on your bike for cheaper where you don't feel like you're losing anything? And unfortunately for scope, there are. So you could put in any of those other 3 wheels I've listed, and I think it's pretty reasonable to say you're not going to be any worse off.
Yeah.
At the same time, I can absolutely still see why people are paying that money for these wheels, because they do what they say they do, and they look incredible.
Yep. And I would argue the market is not the person on the start row of the men's elite nationals road race. I think I had this chat with you before. I feel like the buyer of this, not to side rail this too much, but was the person who used to buy lightweights.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was lightweights. Whoa, look at them. Lightweights. Now lightweights are slop, like from a performance perspective. They're in 1982. And I feel like this is the new sort of lightweight buyer category.
Unfortunately for scope, though, when lightweights came out, you couldn't buy Chinese lightweights.
Yes, and that's
it's
very true.
Whereas now the market has changed, and that is unfortunate for scope.
Yep.
But that just is how it is. One other thing I'll flag, and I'm not going to get to do longevity testing because I don't have them for long enough.
Can I just say just on that, they're actually marketed as a gravel wheel.
Yeah, it's their all-road.
Like,
yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Anyway, just more a comment on durability. But
I mean, even though they're faster than the road version and they're the same weight with a 28mm tire, they're faster than the road version. So
like dirty warning this year. So if I can hang on to them for that.
I just want to, just on the longevity side of things, when they do a custom hub that is designed to strip weight, I will just put one asterisk, which is longevity, where I go, it's not out of the realm of possibility where, a peak torque or an engineer gets these hubs and has some problems with them, because when you've designed an entire hub yourself, compared to something from the H-Works factory in China that they've produced 100 bazillion of them, there is more scope for something to go like that pun. There is more scope for something to go wrong when you've designed your own 3D printed hub. So I don't know. I don't want to kind of say the hubs are all good and someone rides them for 10,000 Ks and goes the thing.
When I froth my nuts over these, to use one of your terms, at Eurobike last year, I'm like, oh my God, look at these 3D printed things. And Hambini was there and he was like, these will fall apart. They're a joke. What are you talking about? I'm like, well, whatever.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, they have got, I remember that time where no one had really ridden these hubs. I mean, they've clearly gone I mean, he wasn't right there.
No.
I mean, lots of people are riding these and they haven't just been exploding. The corrosion is one thing, but so far they seem safe and pretty robust, but who knows what these are going to be like when you've had them for 3 years.
What I don't know is, now they do a crash replacement. Someone from Scope wants to drop a comment in. I'll pin this. What you do with, because obviously like Zip, Reserve, what other mainstream brands do just a straight lifetime warranty on them. I'm not sure what the situation with Scope is, but yeah, could play into the durability aspect. All right, my turn. I'm going to try the terrain difference. I'm going to hopefully get these wheels down south, bump them over some horrendous Southern Highland Kangaroo Valley roads, and come back with some thoughts on that. I'm particularly interested in the cornering at speed on some of those descents. That's one of the places that I find light, deep wheels particularly terrifying.
You're not going to like these then.
Oh no, I'm coming in.
Okay.
I'm putting my carbon spoke. What is it? My carbon spoke sort of issues aside, and I'm going to come in absolutely fresh faced at this, and see how we go. I'm hoping to try a few different carbon spoke wheels this year, so why not start
at the top?
Start at this end.
Yeah, no, I do like them. I would love to keep them. They are very nice.
Well, that was my last question.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'd be riding them for the next year if you didn't take them back.
Scope said, "Oh, look, don't worry about sending them back, Jesse. Just you'd sell them or you'd keep riding them."
No, I'd keep riding them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, they're really nice. Yep.
All right, quick word from today's show partner, Pillar Performance, who, if you've been watching this show for a while, Jesse, they've got their triple magnesium, they've got their creatine, and I have recently been running their protein. Now, I chatted about this a few weeks ago that I was struggling with some of the different protein powders that were out there, simply due to the fact that I was having a bit of gut distress when it came to using them. Subsequently, gone ahead and begun using Pillar Performance's that one right there, the whey protein isolate. And yeah, I am not getting any gut distress from it. So have you seen anything potentially in the mix that might be helping me out here?
Yeah, so if you do have issues with some other protein powders, there's a few ingredients that I think could be helping you out. It is a whey protein isolate, meaning it is filtered already straight out of the bag to be low in sugar, which is going to be, includes lactose, so it helps with that. Low in fat, low in carbs. So just the filtration process they use gets it pretty pure anyway. Then there's two ingredients in it that might be helping you. The sweetener blend is monk fruit extract and stevia, well regarded to be pretty easy on the gut. And then they have a digestive enzyme mix called Digizyme, which is a proprietary product which they've purchased from an external partner and added it in, which can help break down the things in here that would be helping you in particular would be the lactase, help break down any leftover lactose in the protein, and the protease helps break down protein. Those are the two main ones. Lipase is in there, which helps break down fat, but there's not much fat in this product anyway. So they will also potentially be helping you with the digestion side of things.
Now, I should stress, this is a pretty premium product. So in Australia, it's coming in at $124. So it really is for someone who does potentially have a bit of that gut distress, because obviously it's at the premium end of the proteins that are out there. Now, if you do want to go ahead and grab some of this or the triple magnesium or the creatine, head to pillarperformance.shop, use code NERO at checkout for 15% off. And for our North American viewers and listeners, you need to head to the feed and go to the Pillars page there and use NERO at checkout. Big thanks again to Pillar for supporting the NERO show. Right, before we rip into some tour chat, Jesse, a public service announcement. If anyone watching this show in the last week has done one of those stupid Instagram reel or stories where they post their Strava metrics to a fucking fridge and then close the fridge or open the fridge door, I can't remember which one it is now, seen so many of them, and we're meant to be impressed by this thing that we've seen 6 million times, stop it. Stop it. It's done. It's over. Please, people.
Dad says to stop it. It's
stop.
Not cool anymore.
Like, it was creative the first time.
I do find it borderline cringe because the tour started, and then the social media teams for all the teams, like it's kind of trying to, if they can just get a good viral reel, it counts. But even though I don't know what it does for the team, But like Uno X did that, that aura farming Indonesian dancing kid on the boat, and they did one, and I'm like, God, it was kind of relatively early in the trend, but it was just almost stepping over the cringe line. It was right up to it, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of or when the teams go out and they get people to do games because it worked really well for the Unibet.
Yeah.
What was it? Tuatetima. Yeah. They were doing that years ago, like the basketball shots, and now it's everyone just copies everyone. It's like find a game for the pros to do, and it's a little bit like if you're a social media person at these brands, I mean, can we get a bit more creative than just stealing Tuatepima's video from 3 years ago?
3 years ago, yeah.
One thing that did kick off on social media, though, before we get into racing stuff, Mathieu van der Poel's in a bit of hot water. So this is 3 days ago, so a day before the tour. He does an Instagram post with a new partnership he has with a private jet charter company.
Oh, I saw this.
Flying Group Aero. He said, thrilled to share I'm an ambassador for Flying Group.aero. Proud to represent a company that's elevating the world of private aviation, full stop. And if you went into the comments, it was a bloodbath. Poor Van der Poel is not having a good time. So take the train, dude, and set an example. Man, you're a true inspiration on a bike, and the bike is a true inspiration for climate change. Sorry, but this is a bad move. Money can't justify everything. So a lot of people not happy with Van der Poel for what this means for climate change.
Mm-hmm.
I loved him until this post. This is really bullshit. The rich are burning our world and the poor have to live with the consequences of climate change. That's really embarrassing. So, Chris, personally, what's your stance on climate change? No, what did you think?
Let the boys fly.
Yeah.
Look, the ship has sailed as far as a professional cyclist or professional cycling is in any way connected to positive climate change. The sport itself is got to be one of the least carbon efficient sports known to man. If anyone who's been to one of these events knows it's not actually people on bikes. It's the bazillion vehicles that go before and after and move things around, the logistics of all that. Its carbon footprint has got to be horrendous. So to be holding Mathieu to some completely impossible virtue, I think, is a waste of time. I do think this is a nothing burger as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry.
Okay. What about just on the Tour because I got more stuff on Van der Poel, but just what you said there on the Tour itself. Is it not a net win because it promotes cycling in general? Yeah, the Tour de France and the traveling circus of 50,000 vehicles is not good, but is it a net win? Does the Tour de France get more people on bikes in general that then has a win? Do you reckon that balances out?
I wish I could be that person who's so positive about that, who just, they're riding bikes, that'll inspire me to ride to the shops. I'm just so cynical, Jesse. I'm sorry. All I see now is oil companies, oil tycoons running the sport. Like how that links to a positive green outcome is completely lost on Chris Miller in 2025. I'm sorry, I'm the wrong person to. Okay. And then you've got things like, one of the things that always used to bug me is the fact that Skoda are like this big promoter of the tour in Australia. Anyway, I'm sure it's probably the same in other countries. And they used to do fuck all when it comes to any actual development of grassroots cycling. But people think they're associated to cycling, and hence they've kind of greenwashed their brand a bit by the way they linked themselves to the Tour de France. Whereas the actual promotion of the sport and riding in this country, they did absolutely nothing. In fact, Subaru were the ones who used to put money into it and got no credit for it. So when it comes to the Tour, I am full cynical. Like, it is just a bloodbath of money and oil and stinkfest.
Okay.
Love the sport, but that's it.
No,
what do you think? Obviously I'm a lost cause, but what do you think?
I actually have no idea that it is is someone commuting to work inspired by the Tour de France? I feel like there's a lot of links in the chain to kind of attribute, a better climate from more people riding bikes because they watch the Tour de France. I don't know. There is probably research on it, I would assume, but actually I couldn't even guess. I mean, it's a big race. A lot of people see it. I would say yes. It gets more bums on bikes, which has a net gain. Is it worth how the emissions from the actual race itself? I'm not sure. On Vanderpool though, just in relation to this actual partnership, he did respond in the comments, and I didn't think it was a great response. Listen to this. I've seen some of the reactions, and I want to be open about my partnership with Flying Group as a sustainable partner. I understand the environmental concerns, and I respect everyone's voice. At the same time, for my sport and career, the way I travel matters. I work incredibly hard every day to perform at my highest level, and that means making choices that protect my time, health, and peace of mind. Flying relaxed with less stress and exposure helps me stay focused and healthy. This partnership isn't about luxury. It's about performance recovery and the kind of support that gives me 100% every time I show up. I always try to make responsible choices where I can, but I also stand by the commitment I've made to my goals. Thanks for those who understand. So, a complete non-response. He's basically just doubled down. He's gone, no. I understand. I appreciate all your comments, but I'm flying private because I need my Whoop recovery score to be better tomorrow, which is just not a good way to respond to the thousands of comments criticizing you.
We were talking about media managers. That's an F.
It was a rough read, that one.
Media manager.
Now, personally, I think he absolutely has the right to fly private, and he should, as a very well-paid, top-of-our-sport athlete. He doesn't need to be sitting at Amsterdam airport waiting for a business class flight. He should be driven straight onto the tarmac at the flight that suits him so he can recover. As a world-class athlete, he absolutely has the right to do that. I do think, though, especially if he was just doing it, if he was flying privately and kind of no one knew, and he wasn't making a point of it, he could probably just get away with doing nothing. I think when you're doing advertising for a private flight company, the weight of your responsibility changes a little bit. So I think he needs to do something. I think just flying private and advertising it and saying, well, it's fine because it's good for my recovery is not good enough, given how much more emissions come from a private flight than a business class flight. It's like, if you go from he's not going to fly economy, so it's just ridiculous. If you go from business to a private jet, it's about 10 times more emissions from the same length of travel. So here's what I think he should do. I don't think it's good enough for him to do nothing. Here's one for you. His response should have been, thank you for highlighting this problem. While I want to fly private because it's important for my performance, I believe emissions are real and the impact on the climate is true, and therefore I am going to total my carbon emissions from private travel for the year, and I'm going to buy good quality carbon offsets to offset my entire year of travel. Now there's some good dodgy carbon offsets. There's some real. Emirates had a nice one where they built a nice profit generating resort on their carbon offset plot of land, which is a little dodgy. So there's obviously some super dodgy,
probably filled with cryptosporidium.
There's some super carbon offsets is a gigantic murky pool of nothing, but there are good verified high quality carbon offset programs where they just pull the carbon dioxide out of the air and store it.
And it's tax deductible for him.
Yeah. It is fairly expensive, but if he's got enough money to do that, I think that would have been good. It would have been good to him to say, cool, I want to fly private. I don't want to go and just spew carbon into the atmosphere and never have to pay for that. And yeah, it's true. You do all these emissions, you don't have to pay for the downside. And poor people basically in climates that are affected more by climate change have to pay the price. And that's not good enough. So I think it would have been good for him to do that. And then people probably still wouldn't like that. Probably go, well, you shouldn't be promoting flying private anyway. But there would have been a better way to approach this other than just saying nothing.
I find it interesting that we do hold professional cyclists to a different level or a different standard as cycling fans than other fans of their athletes. Like no one's having a go at LeBron James and Steph Curry for flying private everywhere in the world.
Are they advertising private planes?
I'm certain I can find you a dozen NBA players who have promoted private aviation. I wouldn't.
But there's two things though. I think it's not. I wouldn't say it's fair that like that doesn't get caught on nothing. I mean, it is a running joke that like Taylor Swift's carbon emissions or all the Bezoses of the world flying private. Like you go to comments on anything from them, and there's people calling it out. So it does get called out, but also like cyclists in general are more switched on to this stuff. So I would expect that they call it out more. Some NFL player in the US, maybe his audience aren't
his reply
as switched on.
Like,
so
his comment section would have been entirely like, yeah, well played, bro. Like, fuck yeah, made it. Like that's would have been the whole comment section rather than this stuff. Speaking of social media at the tour, sorry, I'm going to take this another way. Did you see the REMCO stuff recently? So we're recording after stage 2. After stage 1, REMCO lost a little bit of time in crosswind section, good stage, mind you. And he was captured by Cycling News. You see this?
Yeah.
Refusing a signature.
Yeah, he palmed the 7-year-old kid off. Yeah.
Right? And
totally fair.
SOOKY
REMCO. Absolutely.
And I got sent by a number of people in my DMs, SOOKY REMCO's back, blah, blah, blah. Right? And then the whole thing is like, so REMCO's replied. And REMCO's come out and said, you didn't show the 15 minutes before where I was signing autographs and doing as we know what these guys do.
The 15 minutes after. I think he came back out once you calmed down. Yes,
because you calm down, you shower, you come back out.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, it's not so much the incident or anything like this. What I find particularly interesting about this is like, and this is a common thing, that these athletes, these guys are reading these comments. They're finishing a stage and they're scrolling.
Oh, yeah.
They're in the comments. They're in the DMs. And it's the modern day athlete. It's not just a cycling thing. You see this now across any sport. I mean, I do watch a bit of NBA stuff and I find it fascinating because, the best of the best, the guys who are top 2, top 3 in the league, they'll be in the DMs replying, and it's weird. Like the modern athlete now uses that as like fuel. They do that thing where it's like us against the world, me against the world, and they go and find the comments, the Jesse Coyles who might say that, you're washed up or something like that.
Yeah.
And like, I'm gonna like it's kind of, I've almost flipped on it now where originally, like a few years ago, I would have said, what are these guys doing? This is mad that you're in the comments and you're paying attention to this. But I actually think now that this is almost what kind of fuels these guys.
It is mad. They shouldn't be in there.
You reckon?
Go and put a Netflix show on and just turn your brain off. Like there's enough stimulation throughout the stage. I mean, you heard like Luke Plapp saying, the speed's about the same as the Giro. The riders are just about as fit as the Giro, but the sound on the road. I mean, they're on the road for 4.5 hours of just like crowd blaring noise in their ears. And then Remco gets back on the team bus and he's scrolling through about negative comments about some totally justifiable thing where he's lost time on GC on stage 1 and he doesn't want to sign some autograph. It's totally fair enough.
But do you think it's actually a performance disadvantage for Remco that he's in the DMs? Because this is my point.
Absolutely. It's just you're triggering a stress response.
Okay.
It's undeniably is it him or is it his wife has access to his social media and she's in there commenting?
You've gone that level. Okay. Yeah, potentially.
I mean, if he's actually sitting in there getting stressed because, people think he's having a SOOKY REMCO, like that's not good for him.
No. But my point is like some guys use it, like for example, like there's
who's using that for performance.
Well, he's like Steph Curry's an interesting one. Like he's like well regarded, like one of the best players of all time. Blah blah blah. Like, and most of the commentary around him is incredibly positive. But then, like after a win or something, he'll be there like, oh, I heard the haters talking, and it's bizarre. It's like they need this fuel, and you see it like they're in there finding the hate deep in the thread somewhere, and like that's gonna inspire me to prove them wrong. Like, you've got nothing to prove, mate. Like, what are you talking about? I just find it bizarre.
Yeah, no, I find it strange too. Strange from the fact that if you were REMCO's manager or partner or team, you'd be saying, get off that shit. Like, just don't be looking at it for the 3 weeks.
No, maybe that's a different. Yeah, okay.
I love seeing his reaction though. This Pogačar and Van der Bellen, they come back and everyone's mates and they're all happy and laughing. I just think it's genuine, but it doesn't ring with me. I'm more of a, if I was a pro, I'd probably be more like Remco. So I like to see the emotion. It builds the character of the race, I think. So good on him for, getting pissed off. I think it's.
Speaking of Remco, just quickly, I saw his bike.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always torn with the gold colorway. It just never, it disappoints me how shit it looks. Everyone's gold one, I've found. Like Carapaz's one, even Sammy Sanchez back in the day, who we had, Greg Van Avermaet had the gold. Actually, that wasn't too bad. It's just always kind of feels like a dirty yellow when you see it in the bike.
Maybe the Olympics give a specific, maybe that's their color code.
I think it is.
And it's not quite the glimmering gold that Chris Miller wants.
Because the gold medal, it just like sparkles,
Yeah.
Whereas the gold on the bike always looks dull and sort of oily.
There's one for you. What's the hex code of the Olympic gold color?
It will be never required for here. Though the only thing I did pick about his SL8 is, so he's got the new wheels on there.
Yeah.
He's running a carbon chainring, and I thought this was interesting just because, and I went back through some of GC Performance's videos, and he was building up SL8s with Dura-Ace with the older wheels with tubes, but mid sixes.
Yeah, it was 6.6 on the old wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah. S-Works model.
So I was like, why have we got a carbon chainring on here? Why do we need to find grams? Potentially the paint job, maybe?
Yeah, because if your new wheels, let's say it's 6.5 in his size, put pedals on, that's 6.7, transponder.
Oh, transponder.
Number holder thing. You're still looking. Is the UCI limit 6.80?
I believe so.
Yeah. Still, you'd think it would come under that.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
But maybe the paint job. I forgot the transponder. We don't have a transponder weight. We need a transponder weight because that is included in the 6.8. I do know that. So the actual bike will weigh less than 6.8 to then put the transponder on. Yeah.
Yeah, the chain rings isn't the first thing I'd be changing. The Dura-Ace chain rings are amazing.
That's my point. Is it seems like that's a strange place to find. What do we think it is? Like 110 grams or something like that in there. Yeah, because you're right. That's the calling card of Dura-Ace group set.
Yeah,
you've got that on there. Can someone quickly sign Kevin Vauquelin? He's Laporte 2.0. He's bossing it. He's on a shit team with a kind of okay bike. Someone sign him, get him winning races. I like him. And Jonas is cooking. He's going to win the Tour. Heard it here first.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on the Jonas train.
Okay.
Bandwagon.
Right.
Aboard. All aboard.
Okay. If you said he's going to win it, what's the play? Because he hasn't found.
Don't hit me on details.
No,
Jesse.
well, just give me one scenario. Where do you think he's coming? I love your blue painted nails, by the way.
Catherine.
Yeah. How's he making up 0.1, 0.2 watts per kilo? Or if he's not going to do that, where's?
Okay, so he's going to take a little bit of time in the time trials.
You reckon?
Yep. Because Tadej's bike, his time trial bike, is in his head now after the Dauphiné.
It's
Great
too heavy.
picture of that with him picking
you
up
see
the other
they rigged
one.
up. Oh, they've lost the plot with the bikes.
Yeah, they have.
They've rigged up extensions on the V5.
Yep.
What are you doing?
Yep.
Anyway, sorry. Continue.
That's my point. It's legitimately in their heads now, I reckon.
So they've got this gigantic, I'm not going to say dog of a time trial bike, but it's quick, but
it's quick.
Not if you're going to ride up a hill.
No.
And
so
then, oh
Poggy's going to spend the next week or so on his Y1 RS. He's going to be so sore through the front of his body due to how bloody stiff it is, and it's just battering him.
Okay.
That he gets to the mountains. He's worn from energy. And Jonas, do I think it's a team play? I don't think so. I can't see how Visma isolate him, because I do think Almeida will be there for the majority of it. He hangs in there, and there's he needs one stage somewhere, a mistake somewhere, and gets a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think this is more the wanting a competitive tour, Chris talking. But yeah, I think he's cooking.
All right. Tadej Pogačar has a secret weapon though.
No. No, you can't just pretend to glue friggin' hooks on and tell me that you've got a secret weapon.
Oh, hashtag glue the hooks on.
Bond the hooks. Bond them on.
ENVE Pro 4.5s. New wheel set.
Yep.
You thought wider is better.
Yes.
So this was, they loved it.
Mm-hmm.
You thought wider was better. Bring back narrow. ENVE ditch wide trend with new narrow 23.5 internal wheels. They loved a bit of that. ENVE have released new pro version of the ENVE 4.5s. We are going to talk about them because there's a lot here. First thing, what was the point of them? Well, the obvious one is they wanted a lighter wheel set. Those ENVE SES 4.5s, as we've been saying a long time, are too heavy. They're like 1,480 grams. Tadej Pogačar, 1,493 for the set. Tadej shouldn't have to lug them up against a set of 1,300 gram scope Artechs, which aren't in the tour, so that's irrelevant. But too heavy. So they wanted to strip that out. Secondly, the ENVE SES 4.5s are hookless with a 25 internal. According to the UCI, you can't run a 28 millimeter wide tire on those wheels because they're hookless. If they were hooked, they'd be fine. So he's stuck running minimum a 30 millimeter tire. When he wants to save weight and ride really fast up a hill, he wants a 28 millimeter tire, which he couldn't do before. So it kind of brings the weight down, lets him run a narrower tire, and that's basically the two main reasons for this wheel set. Depth is almost identical to the previous. It's a millimeter shallower in the front and the rear, so basically the same depth. Now, this was very interesting because the wording of this wheel set when it got released was that it was optimized for a 28 millimeter tire. And so you're going, that means, yeah, they are pushing that narrower is better because now they're optimizing for a 28. But when you go back to the ENVE SES 4.5, the regular version page, they were optimized for a 27 to 28 millimeter tire. So that hasn't changed. The only thing that has changed is that the regular version suit a 30 millimeter tire just because they happen to be wider, which also was what they had to run when the UCI updated their rules. So in terms of what tire were they designed for, it's the same as it was previously. Width change, it used to be 23 inner, 32 outer. Now it's 23.5 inner, 30.8 outer. So it's only a minor change. That rim dimension is still in the wider end of the spectrum of modern wheels. So to say that, ENVE have ditched narrow tires, to say that ENVE have ditched wide tires is just, no, they're still wider than most of the competition. And then the big one, they have what they're calling a mini hook or a micro hook.
There she is.
This is pretty big. Obviously, ENVEs were one of the big ones pushing hookless rims. And now they've put a hook back on. Now, I don't know if this technically, according to the UCI, would be classified as a hooked wheel because they're claiming that it's not a full hook, it's kind of a mini hook. And so I'm actually not sure if this is classified as hooked or hookless, but there is some form of little catch there to hook the bead of your tire. Weight. It used to be 493 grams. It's now 1,295. So they've saved about 200 grams off the wheels. without going to carbon spokes. So they've redesigned the rim. It's slightly narrower, so that saves a bit of weight. Lighter weight hub and lighter spokes, but they're still steel. I'm going to go for a slight diversion to make a separate point. So bear with me. We talked about the new row valves last week, about how they've been designed around a 21 internal rim width to be used with a 28mm tire, and I thought that was dated, and they'd be better off either A, using a wider tire to begin with, or B, designing around a wider tire. ENVE, with this new wheel set, have posted some aero testing results, which backs up my point, and so I want to make it here. They have tested their regular ENVE 4.5s against the new Pro version with the same tires. So, with a 27mm tire, the ENVE SES 4.5s is about 117.5 watts. The new Pro rim, also with a 27mm tire, which is narrower, is slower with a 27mm tire. Not by much. That would be within the margin of error of the test. It's kind of like 0.2 of a watt slower aerodynamically. So I just want to make a point. Have a think that through. The narrower rim, apparently designed for a 28mm tire, is aerodynamically slower with a 27mm tire than the wider rim. So why on God's earth in 2020 would you release a 2026 rim profile, quote unquote, optimized for a 28mm tire, which is just slower than if you had optimized for the 30 or the 32? And we saw the same results when I went to the wind tunnel with the scopes. The scope Artech 6 and the 6.8s. The 6.8 is this all-road 35 external, apparently designed for a 30 or 32. When you put a 28 on, it's faster than the 6. And so there was a lot of comments on that Roval episode, so people arguing back and forth about tires. Okay, if you want to still run around a 28, I absolutely go for it. But when a brand's choosing how to design their rim, they should be designing it around a 30 or a 32. And if it's not hookless, you can still put a 28mm tire on and get all the benefits if you want. That's the key point here. So in terms of rim shape, this new narrower Pro rim, because it's narrower, I mean, yeah, you save a bit of weight. But I think they should have stuck with the rim profile of the regular 4.5s. I just don't see any benefit going back narrower again, other than saving some weight, which they could have just done going to carbon spokes. Compared to, I mean, it's interesting, they got some of the competition here. Now, I'm guessing they've probably just picked the slower competition because in their graph, it's the fastest. The Vision Metron 60 SLs. Actually, no, that's not true. Okay, back to the ENVE's aero testing. We put the 29mm tire on now, so we see how does it perform with a slightly wider tire. ENVE SES regulars are 119 watts. The Pros are almost 120. So that is what you see when you go to a 29mm tire. The Pro is even more slower. I mean, it's not much, but it's still more slow. You put a 32 on, that gap will start to go well into the significant range. They did put some of the competition on here if you're interested. The Vision Metron 60 SLs with this 29mm tire are, a little bit faster than the 4.5s. You're talking like 0.2 of a watt, which is not surprising because that's a 60mm deep wheel. Roval Rapide CLX2s are in between the ENVE 4.5 regulars and the 4.5 Pros with the 29mm tire. Zip 454 NSWs with a 29mm tire. That's pretty significantly slower according to ENVE's testing here. So about 122.5 watts compared to the regular ENVE SES 4.5s, which are 119. So you're starting to get 3.5 watts slower, which might not sound like a lot, but when you're on this graph, that's pretty significant. So not looking too good for the Zip 454s there, when you've put a 29mm tire on it. What do you think about that weight though? 1,300 grams, 1295. Pretty light.
It's very light. Yeah.
With steel spokes.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're married to steel spokes, that's going to be up there. As a pretty challenging wheel to beat.
What would happen if they went to carbon spokes? I've crunched the numbers. So those steel spokes, they're using a 4.1 grams each. Good carbon spokes about 2.9. 48 spokes per wheel set, meaning if they went to carbon spokes, they could save another 58 grams, which would put them at 1237 grams. And when you're closer to 1200, the 1300, you're really stepping up the sort of the ladder of wheel set weights. So for this pro wheel set, which is intended to just be a climbing wheel set to save weight, I would have liked to have seen carbon spokes. The price has gone up a lot. Previous ENVEs on their website were $2,840 USD. The new ones are $3,750 USD. If I was spending money on ENVEs, to be honest, I'd probably get these new ones. For that, you've got to pay the extra cash, but at least you're then getting a wheel set where the weight is competitive. And
just on the carbon spokes real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So they're running, so these are spec'd with the ENVE Inner Drive Pro straight pull hubs. I would suggest, because they've pulled a lot of weight from those hubs, that they're designed for, that's a specific design for a steel spoke.
Mm-hmm.
So you would be redesigning your hub as well to be doing a carbon spoke.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, I mean, look, if you're buying an ENVE wheel in 2025 and you've got that sort of money, I think this is the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that they've called it pro and they've clearly made it to better suit what Tadej Pogacar needs for the tour. It's lighter.
Yep.
And it's hooked. Out of interest, he is still running the regular 4.5s with 30mm tires on the Y1 for the flat days. Can we talk about this new Conti tire too?
The Chris Miller tire.
Yeah, it's really odd.
Yep.
What's going on here? Tell us through this.
So this is supposedly on the request of UAE. We want a tire that fits our wheels. This is the specs we want. We want it to be faster than the TT tubular that you previously offered, that we basically run day in, day out, and we want it in a 30mm. That is our spec. We want it for this particular setup. Basically, the Chris Miller Jesse Coyle tire designed by Continental. You're right, and yet it's a 30mm.
Yeah, so you would either think there's two. He's either not going to run it on the climbing stages, and he's just going to run it for the flat stages, or he is going to run it on the climbing stages, but then be putting a 30mm tire on a rim that was optimized for 28s. Well, that's one we'll have to just wait and see until he gets into because he's been on the Y1 RS so far. So we'll have to wait till he gets into the mountains to see what he's going to run. I'm curious because they do have a hill climb time trial coming up soon. He's obviously going to run the lighter ENVEs. Does he put the wider tire on? Or does he put the 28 Grand Prix TT?
Are these tires publicly, can you buy them?
Yep.
All right. Yep. And it's just a one size,
just a 30.
We need to sit at these. These need to be looked at. I think they may have, the specs on this. This is everything I want from I have no idea what the puncture protection's like.
No. There was I read a review. I can't remember who did it, and they were saying the longevity is like they'd ridden it a few times and there was already cuts.
Because it's funny, people drop in the comments a lot that the TT tire is actually holds up for them.
Do you mean the aero tire or the TT tire?
No, sorry, the TT tire, not the aero tire.
Okay.
The one that basically they do use a lot.
Yeah.
That 30mm TT tire is pretty durable.
Pretty good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Maybe he'll run the aero tire for the time trials.
Have they done? Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But that also is quite narrow. So that would make more sense. He might run. Yeah, okay, maybe he'll run there we go. Put the 29mm aero tire on the new ENVE front and put the Archetype 30 on the rear. Pretty good setup.
Yep.
Run it with a TPU tube. Bit lighter. Is that I'm guessing that Archetype tire is a tubeless tube type.
Yes.
Does the Conti Aero tire come in a non-tubeless variant? Sorry, it looks like they're only tubeless. And you'd potentially suggest for that hill climb time trial he'd be wanting to run a clincher tire, not tubeless ready, because it's lighter and sticking a TPU tube in.
I'm just reading the review on Bike Radar. Oh, this is just everything I want from a tire.
Go for which one?
The archetype.
Yeah.
Just in use, the grip is prodigiously good for a race tyre such as this. I struggle to think of a road bike tyre that offers such a sensation of being stuck to the black top when cornering quickly. I love that about Conti tyres. I've been trying a few other tyres recently, and I miss that feeling so much. And to think that, and it was interesting, they said the benchmark for ride feel probably remains the Corsa Pro TLR. Couldn't disagree more. But yeah.
But you haven't been riding the Corsa Pro. The top rated. Oh, I get confused.
It's fucking confusing.
Vittoria isn't it the Corsa Pro Speeds, the really fast ones?
Yes.
The ones that you're running are just the regular courses.
The regular courses, yes.
I don't know.
That's what they are, the Corsa Pros. They're not the Speeds. The Speeds are the crazy ones.
But the Corsa Pros aren't the duck's nuts of... Are they, who's claiming that?
Bike Radar are saying that's the benchmark for ride feel.
Oh, Bike Radar's claiming it? No, what do they know?
No, what do they know? Load of rubbish. Yeah. Oh, I'm frothing these tyres. Even the colourway looks sick. Yep. Cool. All right. Doggo Fast Bike, Jesse Coyle.
Woo!
We're going to bash through them this week. Officially not sponsored by CRW. I went through and removed any bike that had a CRW wheel.
Don't bother sending them.
That is done until the big cash, the truck pulls up with the dollars out the back. All right, let's start us off with the 2024 Giant Propel Advanced Pro Black Current colorway. Shimano Ultegra 12-speed, rotor chain rings 5236, 1132 cassette machine power meter 167.5. You know that was an option. Disc brake rotors are Dura-Ace. We've got ceramic OSPW, BB Infinite Ceramic BB, EXS Aero Nova carbon handlebars, 140 Supercaz bar tape, black ink 60 wheels, wrapped on Pirelli 30mm tyres, Giant SLR Fleet carbon saddle, 6.6 with bottle cages. 7.6 with bottle cages and CPU mount, element bolt, version 2, slop computer. There it is.
Fast computer.
Fast computer.
Bolt.
That is a fast computer. So this is the current iteration of the Giant Propel. I reckon this is going to be updated next year. I'm not basing that on anything other than my own thoughts. Jesse Coyle, is that a dog or is that a fast bike?
Okay, this build is doing absolutely nothing for me. I've never been more uninspired by a build, but that it's a quick bike.
Nah, this is a dog, Jesse.
Why? Why is that a dog?
This is a dog. This is a dog. I'll tell you why this is a dog. Because the owner of this bike thinks it's a fast bike, but sadly, it's not a fast bike. I've ridden those wheels. Not fast. Not a fast wheel. I've ridden those wheels with the tyre combination. Never have I done slower efforts in CP. We're talking sub 40 kilometre an hour efforts on those wheels. Dog of a wheel. Don't like them in any way, shape or form. Not particularly light either. And look, the Propel, it's just a stiff basket case that is just value. We're not here for value. We're here to know whether that is a dog or a fast bike. You're not going to fool me just because you've put a really good, valuable, value-conscious bike that's probably going to beat me in a lot of races. I don't care. You've got a nice stack height on there. I know you've probably got a good setup. I'll give you that. Good power meter that accurately tells you, I don't know what your FTP is, but sorry, you got to go with your gut here, Jesse. And as you said in the very beginning, it's an uninspiring build that maybe is an extension of the personality of this person. I don't know. But there you go, dog.
Uninspiring build for an uninspiring human.
Wow.
Chris Miller said it, not me.
Bike 2. Trekman Dump. We were too easy. We were too soft last week, Jesse. Too soft. We let one slip under the radar, I reckon. Anyway, Trek Madone SLR Gen 7 as Project 1 in Lishan Green. Tram Red Axis with a Garbaruk cage. Rotor 1046 cassette carbon chainring 48 tooth from Gemini, Zip 545 huh? with Pirelli P0SL.
Is that
in
the AliExpress
32s. We got inner tubes. We got a Pro Logo saddle. 7.4.
This is a dog. See, this is a dog. The giant propel that we just did kills this. 32 mil tires on these zips is slow as anything. That's the worst setup. They're not designed for that. That's a dog. You've made that wheel set. Those zips need a nice 26, and they're good. So with a 32 on them, that's a dog. That gigantic rotor cassette, you are going to be in between gears. Your cadence is going to be all over the shop, and you're never going to feel like you're settled in. You're going to be grinding or spinning, and you're not going to find the gear you want. TPU tubes. What are you doing? You've put 32s on, and then you're stuck with TPU tubes. I'm not. You probably thought, because it's the actual Trek Madone, I'll get it across the line. I mean, there's just way too many things in this build I don't like. Tiny chain rings too. I mean, is this a climbing bike with with a huge cassette? So you're going, is this to ride climbs on? With Zip 454s and 32 mil tires? I don't understand. And it's not for rough roads because it's tubed. Like, a very confused build.
You're dead right. I got the Propel wrong. Sorry, I've just sat here and was staring back at the Propel. It's just a fast bike. I know I've got to get over the fact that it lacks creativity, but it is a fast bike. I'm sorry. I retract all dog comments.
We've got him to walk it back.
I've had to reassess that because you're also right. This is horrific. This is an abomination to Trek. Trek should get their money back from this owner. That's potentially dreadful. I almost feel like it's a meme. Is this an AI generated? I want Chris and Jesse to call this a dog. Yeah. Sorry. No. I don't have any other take. On it? No. Okay.
Have a think about what riding you're doing and reassess the choices. There's potential, but it's going to need some work.
All right, moving on. An S-Works Venge. 54 teeth aero chainring, 1033 SRAM red rainbow cassette waxed chain. XMC carbon speed wheel set, 65 mil deep. 26 internal. Wow. Vittoria Corsa Pro speeds. So they will give you 6 rides before they flat. Favero Asiomas. Got an Avian's Falcon cockpit. 36,110. Fork and seat post have been hand polished. Give that glossy effect. Aero bottle, Cellular Italia saddle. No expensive, useless bottom bracket or OSPW. I love you. Frame second hand, bought for $2,500. The wheels $1,000.
Specs of those wheels look good. There you go. There's another one that's maybe getting close to that scope territory. Although is XM Carbon Speed one of those websites where you have to email them?
I think it is.
They don't have an actual web shop. I don't know. That doesn't count if you got to speak to someone on WhatsApp. But yeah, no, they look impressive.
I think we can get straight to the point here. This is a fast bike.
Yep.
Yeah, this is certified.
I do know those bars are known to be quite flexy, but they're very light. Did he put a weight here? This is going to be, because it's a Venge, but it's one by with 65s. Yeah, this is going to be a light build because those handlebars are also light. You're potentially sub 7.5. I
could see Jesse Coyle on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's fast bike.
Fast bike. Bike 4 is the Van Rysel RCR. Now I don't have a huge amount of details here, but I'm looking at that and I'm seeing SRAM Force, previous iteration. I'm seeing a race number. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And they are Zip 454s, I do believe. It looks like some Conti GP 5000s. We have a 36 centimeter. He has given me 36 centimeter bars, 28 rear, 32 both tubeless, waxed chain. Jesse Coyle. I have an FTP here as well.
Okay. Can I just flag something with this gearing that I don't like? When you've got a 48-35 up front, a 10-33 rear, which means your easiest climbing gear is almost a 1-to-1. But you're stuck with a 48 tooth up the front, which means you're spending a lot of time down the bottom end of that block. If you're on these SRAM group sets, you have to get the biggest chain rings you can get, which I think it might be a 50 is the biggest you can get in the front. You need that minimum. Otherwise, your chain line's all weird.
You can get a 56, man.
Yeah, if you know someone.
No, you can get them. No, that's not like a bullshit need to know someone thing. 100%.
Okay. All right. No, but this is force.
Yeah, fair point.
Have a look at it. But yeah, that I on this, I was giving the guy shit for his gigantic 46 cassette before, but you'd probably want to even go like a 10-30. If you need that easy gear, get a 10. What are the gears come in? What's the next step up from that? Is it a 36? 10-36? Can you get that?
Yes.
You know, and then just get the big chain ring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that gearing doesn't make sense to me. I would hate to ride around on that.
Maybe if I give you the FTP, this might help.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
This could be a way to do this. 360 watts.
It's not a very big bike.
It does 380 for 20 minutes.
Right.
67 kilos, my weight.
What?
17.
What?
So he's doing the Tour de l'Avenir, I think, next week.
What country?
I don't know. I'm guessing the UK. I will confirm that in the B-roll.
No, okay. I don't know if you thought that was going to help me push it towards fast or dog, but I'm saying at that level of rider, I'm leaning towards dog.
That's emphasized dog to me.
Yeah, I think there's too many watts for that rider that could just be doing so much more.
He's riding threshold at 380 watts or 350 watts on the flat. I'm sorry, but you're in the 4810.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yep.
That's no. Sorry, do better. This isn't charity. All right. So 70K by the end of the tour, Jesse. That's the goal.
Yep.
What do you reckon our chances are?
Slim to none.
Slim to none? Yep. You never know. You never know. We can bully enough people. We might get. And I will say this. There's going to be some content in the next 2 or 3 weeks on the channel that you're not going to want to miss.
You will not want to miss.
Don't leave this up to the algorithm. You need to take matters into your own hands. Get amongst
all your
it.
mates will be talking about it, and you won't know. They'll be like, "Oh, did you see that Chris Miller video?
Jesus, that was good."
And you won't have any idea.
That Heffron vlog? What? What? Amazing. All right, I'll talk to you and everyone else real soon.
See you then.